Is it practical? Is it profitable? Is it reliable? Is it worth it? And are you good enough to make a career in musical theater? These are the questions that we ask ourselves over and over and over again. And these are the questions that people like our parents, our friends, our colleagues, our mentors, our internal dialogue with ourselves that we ask. So let's have a conversation today, and we're going to unpack, is it worth it for you to pursue a musical theater career as an artist, as a performer? And by the end of this conversation, I'm going to really share with you two sides of the coin, thoughts to consider, and some elements that are really going to help clarify what are your next steps in this chapter. If you never book a Broadway show, will it still be worth it? That's a question that only you can answer. And if your answer is, if I don't ever book a Broadway show, I will never be successful, then it might not be worth it for you to be in this industry, because you cannot control if you book that benchmark. Is it possible? Yes, absolutely. But not all of us are going to book a Broadway show. If you're someone that goes to college for this, or you one day, wake up and tell your parents, whatever age you are, I want to do musical theater for a living. Most people look at you and they're like, oh, that's cute. That's cute. What are you really going to do? But that's my dream, right? That's our dream. Our dream is to be on stage in whatever capacity and in whatever type of show, whatever stories that you want to tell. That's our dream. And if you're like me, you're very used to people laughing at you and saying things like, oh, how are you going to pay your bills though? Oh, well, that's not really a real job, is it? Oh my gosh, you're in musical theater. What Broadway show have I seen you in? Because that's the benchmark in society. The other opposite side of that is, oh, you're an actor? Okay, like what TV shows have I seen you in? I want to ask you two questions, and I want you to really think about these. You may not know the answer in this moment. You may want to write it down. I always encourage you to write these down. It makes it more black and white and in print rather than you just thinking it in your brain. But I have two questions I want to ask you today. Question number one is, if you left this world tomorrow, what would you want people to say about you? Let that just simmer and sizzle a little bit, right? And be honest. What would you want people to say about you? The next question is, if you left this world tomorrow, would you regret not following your dreams? Because if you're watching this video, you're considering it, right? If you're clicking on this video, you're like, does this girl have the answers to my question? Is it worth it? Like, should I follow my dreams of being in musical theater, right? You're watching this video for that reason. So will you regret it if you don't follow your dreams when your life in this world comes to an end? Your answers to those two questions are going to tell you a lot about what the next chapter is for you. Because if your answer was, yeah, I will regret not following my dreams if I left this earth tomorrow. I don't care what age you are. I work with people all the way from 18, because I don't work with anybody under 18, from 18 to 80. And I have people that I work with that are, 60s, 70s that are like, yeah, I would regret it. So that's why I'm coming to you. I want to do some musical theater. Or they end up messaging me and say, I watched your video. I'm working with a voice teacher now. Or I took a class at a community college so I could sing. I love that. Doesn't mean that you have to move to New York City and be on Broadway. You can do musical theater anywhere in the world. It's just figuring out what's going to be worth it for you and what are your dreams and how are you then going to move forward and take actionable steps to work towards those dreams, right? But if your answer was, yeah, I would regret it, then there's should you follow? Should you leave this earth regretting something? I mean, we're all going to have regrets, but why would you regret not using this lifetime to follow something that's deep in your heart and in your soul? Now, I hear you. Let me just, the thoughts are coming in, right? Or if you're a parent or somebody that has either a child or a friend or a spouse or a partner or whoever that is thinking about this, let me just unpack this for a second. I know the first thing you're going to think is, okay, Ashley, if I follow my dreams in musical theater, how am I going to make money? I hear you on this. Let me just follow that question up with, how many jobs in this industry, how many jobs in this world give you a reliable paycheck that says you're going to get paid from now until the end of your lifetime. Consistency, reliability, stability, right? That's a big word that comes to us in this industry. If you follow your dreams, but musical theater isn't stable, what job is stable? Okay, we are way post 2020 now. The only stable jobs are like if you're a Supreme Court judge or if you're a tenured faculty member. And I was on a tenure track faculty member position in theater, and that's like a whole nother conversation that we can unpack at a later time why I left academia. But those are the only really jobs that are stable. What other jobs are stable in this world? And we tend to forget that, right? As an artist, you're going to be broke. Not necessarily. Do you have to be smart and savvy? Yes. Absolutely. That's literally why I'm sitting here having this conversation with you today, and I'm not broke on the side of the road, is because I said I'm going to follow my dream of being in musical theater, and I'm going to discover how I can make that happen in a way that feels good to me, but also I'm going to make some money, and I'm going to have investments, and I'm going to have assets, and I'm going to be able to retire, because that's the life that I want. The other side of that is the first conversation I want to circle back to really quickly that I asked you to unpack is, if you left this earth tomorrow, what do you want people to say about you? That's going to tell you a lot about the other types of work that you can be doing in this industry. Being in musical theater can be performing, but why can't you also direct or stage manage or be an intimacy director or be a choreographer or be a writer or be a producer or be a composer or be a graphic designer or a social media designer for a theater? Like, there are so many ways that you can be involved in musical theater that you don't just have to say, I'm a performer and that's all I'm ever gonna do in the world. Okay, let's be real, okay? If you're following your dream of being a musical theater performer, there is not one person in this world, if you know who they are, you tell me. You comment below or you send me a DM on Instagram and you tell me. There's not one person that solely makes a living off of performing. It's just the way it is. Now, a lot of people aren't going to tell you that, but they are all doing, and I know this because I've been in this industry long enough and I've been on the other side of it because I coach so many people that are in their second phase of their life where they're like, Ashley, I got to make more money. How else can I make money in this digital world? There are people out there that are musical theater performers that you probably know that make money off of workshops, masterclasses, speaking engagements, digital products, affiliates, endorsements, sponsorships. You would not even believe it. But saying that out loud is not appealing because we are taught if you're in a show, then everything must be fine. How many times have you asked somebody, wow, you're doing this show, it's at this regional theater, or it's off Broadway, or it's on Broadway, or whatever. Wow, it's on tour. How much money are you making? We don't ask that question because it's not appropriate. But you're thinking they're doing a show, they must be making a lot of money. Not necessarily true. And if they are making a lot of money, what's the cost of living? What other expenses do they have? Do they have college debt they're paying off? Are they supporting family? Do they have to pay for their own healthcare insurance because they don't get enough of it because they have, other people in their family they have to support? We don't know what else is happening to them in their life. So the idea that you're going to follow your dreams and there's going to be no money, it's kind of slightly ridiculous because nobody has this conversation with you. And let me give you, a great example when we talk about money in musical theater and let me follow your dreams and I'm not going to make any money. I make good money. That's because I was determined to not rely on my paychecks as a performer. I know that sounds crazy, but I said to myself, I want to follow my dreams, wherever that may lead me. And my dreams of being in musical theater led me on a path that is unlike anybody else. Your path in this industry is going to look very different than anybody else's. So I would encourage you to say, okay, I want to follow my dream of being in musical theater. I don't know what that's actually going to look like, but I know that I would regret it if I didn't try. Or I know that I want people to say about me, wow, Ashley was someone that I knew I could count on, that she inspired me, that she motivated me to do what I wanted in my lifetime before that time is over, because life is short. And the only person that you have to wake up to in the morning and that can look at you and say, wow, Ashley, you're doing amazing, is you. That's you. You have to live this life for you first, nobody else. So my life has looked very different in musical theater, and people make fun of me all the time. People laugh at me. People look at me like, I don't understand. Where are you? What are you doing? And I don't care. And it took me a long time to have that confidence in myself, because now I'm at a point where I don't rely on anybody. Like, if you don't like this, great, no problem. And I'm not talking about just performing. I'm talking about on the other sides of it, because I can't control what someone thinks about me, but I can control my own income. I can control the things that I do on a daily basis, and I can control how I show up in front of people right now. Like this exact moment. If you're wanting to follow your dream of musical theater, you have to make that decision of, I'm going to follow this dream. I'm going to follow this path. It's going to look nothing like I thought it was going to be. And I'm going to figure it out along the way, but I'm going to be smart about it. That's the only way I've been able to sustain a life in musical theater. If you are not someone that is willing to navigate the ups and downs, or you don't want to, that's okay. My journey has looked so different, because I went to undergrad for musical theater, and then I went straight to New York and I did the thing. But that was back in like the mid 2000s, when the thing was very different than the thing is now. And so I started off following my dream, and I had to make the decision of, am I going to stay where I am after I graduate and get married, settle down, have kids, or am I going to follow a dream that does not include that? That was a pivotal moment for me. Because I had to say, society has taught me as a woman that the best value I can offer is to be a mom, is to be a wife. And that was soul crushing to me. And I am not saying this conversation here is not, please don't take this out of context. I am not saying that being a mom and being a partner and being a wife is not worthy. I am not saying that at all. I have so much respect for those people in the world. It wasn't for me though. And it took me a long time to be able to say that out loud. It's not for me. That thought of that life was not my dream at all. And so I had to say, am I going to take a risk and people are going to be angry at me? Family, friends, people I was living with, people I'd been dating, people I was thinking about I was going to marry. Am I going to make them angry and frustrated and unhappy? Yes. But in the long run, if I follow my dreams, then it gives them the space for them to also follow theirs. And I look back and I'm so proud of myself for making that decision, because in the time, was it crushing for people in my life? Absolutely. But I don't regret those decisions, because those people now are living their best life with the dream that they had. And I'm so happy for them. And if I had stayed, it probably wouldn't have turned out to be the same. So now I get to have my dream, and they also get to have the life and the dream that they have. And it works out. So it's not just about you, it's the ripple effect of how it affects other people. And so I left and I went to New York, and that set me on a different path and a different path and a different path. And I never in my entire life would have thought that I would be where I am today, ever, in a million years. So is it worth it to follow your dream? Yes, in my opinion. Should you follow your dream? That is something that only you can answer and unpack. But let me also ask you this question now. What is your dream in musical theater? What does that look like? The question is, what if you could wave a magic Tinkerbell wand and have your ideal life in musical theater in 6 months from now? What would that look like? So I'm going to ask you, what would that look like for you in 6 months? Okay, not a year, not 2 years. We cannot do that. Don't look that far down the road. In 6 months, what would that look like for you? That's where you start. And then you figure out the next steps to get to that point. And then the flip side of this is, right, because you're trying to discover and find out and uncover, should you follow your dream in musical theater? When you get to be 40 years old, let's say, what do you want to be doing in your life on a daily basis? What does your life look like? That can be having kids, having family. That can be traveling the world. That can be living in New York City and doing musical theater. That can be a mix of all of those things, but it can also have different pieces of the pie, where some pieces of the pie are bigger than the others. You can do all of the things. Your dream does not have to be musical theater and nothing else. It doesn't have to be. But the biggest mistake you can make is to ignore those thoughts and those feelings, so that if you're in your, teens or 20s and you decide not to follow your dreams, you're going to take the safe way, then you're going to hit 40 and go, what if? Or you're going to hit 50 or 60 or 70 and you're going to wonder, what if? What if I had taken that risk? What if I had just tried to just test it out to see if I like it? What if? And I don't want to have what ifs in my life whenever I die, whenever that may be. I don't want the what ifs. And I don't want anyone else in this world, in society, to dictate if I should or shouldn't do something. I have to discover that on my own. And if you make a mistake along the way, you'll learn from it. I've made so many mistakes in my lifetime, and that has given me the information and the experience and the knowledge to say, okay, that didn't work. Let me do that instead next time around. All of the questions that circle around your mind when you're thinking about musical theater, like, should I go to college for it? Should I go to grad school? Should I just move to New York? Like, how am I going to make enough money? If you really want to do this, if this is your dream, then you will figure it out. You will. You will figure it out, because being in musical theater takes someone that is resilient, that is determined, and that is able to say, I don't know what is going to happen. And I'm okay with that. It's okay if you come into this industry as a musical theater performer and then you hit 30 and you're like, I want to be a nurse. Cool. Great. No problem. You didn't waste the time. All of that experience is going to come in and help you be a better nurse and give better care to people and be better at your job. Say you want to be a real estate agent and you want to perform because you want to have the stability of the real estate agent job, and then you also want to perform on the side of that. Great. Okay. Say you want to have a family and kids and you want to be in one spot, and then you want to, like San Diego, and you want to work in San Diego because you know it's a good theater community and you can do that in addition to. Okay, cool. Say you want to work a 9 to 5 and you want to have your desk and you want to have the health insurance and the comfort of knowing that paycheck's coming in, and you want to perform in the evening. Okay. I know people that do all of those things. But it takes you saying, what is my dream? And I am going to move towards that no matter what anybody else thinks. Because if I had allowed everybody in my life to influence my decisions and to keep me from doing what I thought was best for me, I would not be here in this moment. And I probably would not be happy. I would not be fulfilled. And I would not have a life that truly brings me joy every day. Now, I mean, of course, there are bad days. Don't get me wrong. There are high highs and low lows in musical theater. But it took me a long time to realize that. And if you want my tips and tricks, here's just my few tips for you that have worked for me. Again, you have to find what works for you. But if you're wanting to follow your dream, number one is find someone that supports you in this dream. It took me a long time to realize that my partner in life, my now husband, that they needed to be in the industry. And they needed to be like in musical theater. They needed to understand what I'm going through, because otherwise I am going to fall into this comfortability of not taking risks. I'm not even going to unpack that publicly right now. I'm not ready to unpack that publicly, but take risks. And I wanted to be with a partner that didn't want to have kids. And that took me a long time to say that it's just not for me, that's not in the cards for me. And when I met my husband, who's in this industry as well, we were like, oh my God, we make each other better. And that partnership has just changed me as a human and as an artist. If it's not a partnership, find a community, find a group of people that will support you, that understand, because nobody understands this industry unless they are in it. My next tip for you is to find a mentor. Okay. A friend is not a mentor. You need someone that can look at you, that can say, okay, I hear you. I see you, but there's this one little piece of the puzzle that I just want to unpack for a second about moving forward in your career. You need a mentor. You need someone. I have one. I have multiple ones at different times in my life and my career. You need to find a mentor, someone that you can rely on, someone that can have conversations with you, someone that can say, okay, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? That can then guide you to the next career steps for you, free of their personal bias. That's the work that I do with my clients. And the third tip I have for you is to be your number one cheerleader. I know she's not easy. I know sometimes you're not going to want to cheer yourself on, but if you're not cheering yourself on, how can anybody else look at you and say, wow, I want to hire that person. Wow, I want to work with that person. But the only way you can cheer yourself on and to know that you have worth, that you have value, that you following your dreams is worth your time and your energy is if you have the first two things in place. You need support, okay? And if nothing else, if you're somewhere in the middle of the world and you're watching this and you're having this conversation with me, right here, these YouTube videos, that can be your support. It doesn't have to be monetary if you don't have that investment or you're not ready to. This community, it can be a Facebook group, it can be watching my content every single week or following me on Instagram or on Facebook, but mostly Instagram on my DMs, like surrounding yourself with people online that even if you just watch, you get motivation, you get inspiration from. Okay, start with that. You have to have those people in your world so that those days where you're like, what am I doing? I'm following my dream. This is ridiculous. I don't even know what's happening. How am I, when you're spiraling, you need someone to go to be like, okay, got it. Okay, great. You're cheering me on. I can cheer me on. Because as we all know, following your dreams is not easy and it feels really lonely in musical theater. So that would be my biggest shift that I would encourage you to take away from this video is this conversation, if nothing else, gave you the space to really think about what's right for you, or it inspired you, or it gave you some little piece of the puzzle that you were like, oh, I never thought about it that way. You have one life to live. It's your life, it's your path, it's your journey. You will figure it out along the way. And if you need help and support, you know where to find me. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.